it all. Oh, what you know about me? Oh, what you know about me? Oh, what you know about me?
Hey, everybody, we are back. People, I appreciate you, yo. We rocking. The shoulders start getting moving.
Gotta get the shoulders moving. Gotta get the shoulders moving. It helps blood. It helps the blood circulate healthily.
You know, there you go.
There you go.
He's ready to party. He got the look in his eyes, so I like it. So, so everybody, welcome back to another episode of More Than the Title. I'm your host, as usual, Jarrett Thomas, Chief Revenue Officer at Outside the Box Digital. I'm also joined by my co-host, my brother, my cousin, my family, my geyser, your favorite CEO's favorite CEO, Chadeo, aka Pastel Chad. What's good, baby?
We in the building. You know the motto: if it ain't bright, it just ain't right. Black is so boring.
And show them the merch. Show them the merch.
You know what to say. Hold on, bet on yourself all the time. Bet on. Let me lower it down, right? You see the bet on yourself, T. Let me. There you go. Bet on yourself.
There you go. So if you want the bet on yourself merchandise, you can go to otbdigital.com. We're plugging everything. We're selling everything. Everything's for sale. So if you like us as content creators, help us out. All right, show some love. And shout out to all the supporters.
Yes.
Day ones, the listeners. We on season 4 now. We're growing and glowing every week because y'all. So we are so grateful for the love, for the
and
charting in the business category.
Thank you.
Shout out to us. Shout out to y'all.
We appreciate y'all.
We rock it. And also shout out to our exclusive distribution partners, the Alive Podcast Network.
Yes.
So if you want exclusive Black content similar to this, please go download the app and show your favorite creators some love. But this one, we're going to have some fun today. We got a special guest. So before I even give you an intro, I want to preface how we met.
Okay.
So we met about a month ago, right? So I'm going to shout out to my brother, Dr. Marcus Collins. Mm-hmm. It was I forgot what it was I said. And then me and P, I started just getting in the conversation. I'm like, all right, who are you? And I started looking. I'm like, damn, yeah, number food pictures. I'm like, damn, you gotta be wait,
hold on. She's a foodie?
Big foodie.
Oh, we might have to be best friends after this because you know I'm a skinny fat dude. I love to eat. That's one of my favorite pastimes.
You just tell me you were like a health and fitness person.
There's a lot of salad. I eat a lot of salad.
And with everything.
With everything. No, seriously, with everything.
I like a good salad.
No, listen, it's like Frank's Red Hot. Anything I order, you got a salad. They be like, you want a Caesar? I said, no, I want a house salad. Give me lettuce, tomatoes, and no, don't give me no damn lettuce and cheese. What to do with that?
You don't know what to do with that. But we started. I looked at her profile.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I just jumped in DM like, hey man, we started
right.
Engaging with each other.
Right.
And then I went into her background. I'm like, oh nah, you're so dope. And you're so humble about it.
Right.
But let me just preface it for all the listeners. So, so as Associate Director of Brand and Original Content Marketing, ESPN, she led a stellar team in developing beautiful and impactful promotional strategies. The Emmy, Oscar, Peabody award-winning brands such as 30 for 30, E60, ESPN Films, ESPN Plus Originals, what else? We had the ESPY Awards, SC Featured, and with over 10 years of experience in the media entertainment industry, she has a proven record of delivering innovative and effective campaigns that increase brand strength. So I want to introduce our
Hold on, give it a horn. Wait, give it a horn first. Give it a horn.
Get ready for horns.
School is in session.
School is in session. We about to get crazy. So we're going to introduce our special guest, Miss Patricia Yanez. What's up?
Yeah. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Like intro is like an audio clip, and anywhere I go, I can like have you hype me
Absolutely.
up.
Already
clipped up. Already clipped up.
Wait till we get the AI popping. Wait till we get the AI voice thing popping. You ain't double queen.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. And yes, that is how we met.
So first of all, I want to just jump in, just so you know, right? I was looking at your background. I see the Adidas in the background. Those look like a size 9. No,
look like the Pat Ewings too.
They look.
First of all, you trying to grab my sneakers?
Huh? No, just sizing them up. You know. So now you got a very interesting background going on back there. I see The Last Dance, which I enjoyed thoroughly. So all of those items in your background, from the pictures to the sneakers and stuff, can I assume that those are all active campaigns that you worked on?
Yes, all worked on, not active anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, Last Dance was my first baby at ESPN. So I moved from a few different roles within the Walt Disney Company. I was in distribution sales. I went into different roles with marketing, all within distribution. And moving into consumer marketing was my last hurrah. So for anyone who doesn't know, the Walt Disney Company owns a majority part of ESPN, and that's why it's all the same family. So I got hired, I think, in November of 2019. And then the pandemic shut everything down in March. So to be fair, a lot of the marketing groundwork had been laid before I joined the team.
Right.
And then we had a plan, huge media plan, monthly, weekly meetings, kind of like updating status about how we were going to do things, where we were going to hit. The film was supposed to premiere later that summer, around final season. The world stopped. LeBron asked for the film to get moved up, as well as everyone else on the planet, because there was nothing else to watch after Tiger King and who knows what else we were watching. We had to throw away the marketing plan and start all over again for a premiere in April. And I was telling Jarrett off camera, you know, this was a lot of late nights or early mornings. I can't even tell, working with a production house on the West Coast, waiting for files to get delivered, cuts of the film getting sent to us and rewatching. At some point, I probably could have quoted parts of episodes. If you can imagine watching rough cuts of what is now 10 hours of film, but was longer at the time. We didn't know how to work remote. You know, everyone was kind of like figuring it out. We figured it out, and it was amazing. And then we had like another stretch of like 3 more films that dropped because people were still not in production. So we had Lance, we had Be Water, and I think we had Oscar Pistorius, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
But what? First, there's a lot of moving pieces when you're creating something like Last Dance, and that being your baby, and it being the greatest athlete of all time. Like, what was your mindset going into it? And how are you judged?
Hold on. Arguably.
Arguably. Let's mute his mic.
Why, is he a Kobe fan?
Arguably. Listen, I understand being a fan. I'm a fan of Mike too, but it's arguably. You got a lot of intelligent, you got a lot of intelligent arguments that you can have against that. So arguably,
but respect, right? Like, I'm a Knicks fan. 90s Knicks. This was hard to work on.
It was
really hard to work.
Hold on. Do me a favor. Mute her mic. We're from New York, and we ain't Knicks fans. Look. I'm not a Knicks fan.
Let him know, PY. He should be a New York Knicks fan. I remember the layup. I remember all that.
That's like me. That's like me being a Jets fan. You got to be kidding me.
All right, I'm about to kick him out the damn chat. I'm about to kick him out the damn chat.
This was fun.
Nick, last time Knicks won one, I don't even think I was conceived yet.
So are you a Fairweather fan? Is that what you're telling me?
Fairweather? Mm-hmm. Listen, I'm an LA fan.
Oh.
LA, baby. LA. I'm being honest with you. I'm a Laker fan. And since I played football and everything like that, when I came up in the 80s, I'm a big Joe Montana fan of the old San Francisco 49ers.
Okay.
And I'm a big 49er fan. Those are my teams. And I didn't even realize subconsciously that I became a California team-based guy. Hey, but listen, go Rangers. and listen, and if I have to, I'm definitely a Yankees fan. If I gotta watch baseball, I'll watch the Yankees. You know what I mean? But I'm just being honest with you. Like, I'm not a big baseball fan. It's just too boring. I like adrenaline.
They changed the rules. It's a little faster.
It's boring. I'd rather watch hockey and watch somebody get slammed up into the wall or something. That's what I'm trying to
do.
Thank you.
You've been to a hockey game before?
Like,
yes,
that's what I'm.
Lifetime.
Thank you. Not only is the game dope, but the energy from the people sitting around. Okay, thank you. We on the same page now.
That is
now
100%. I would watch live.
Right. Thank you. Baseball, sometimes I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I be in the seats nodding. I ain't gonna. It gets a little boring.
Yeah, it definitely is, man.
You know,
but what's up? I do want to. I'm gonna get into
all
this
because
we're gonna have a lot of fun. I do want to know, but for you, with the Last Dance, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's MJ. You're going into this. It's a pandemic. It's a lot of moving pieces. Like, what was your mindset going into it, and how are you judged on the success of a project like Last Dance? Like, is there KPIs attached to it?
Yes. Well, I would say yes and no. So we had KPIs going into with one rollout strategy before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Once the pandemic happened, it was really more like, how do we serve the fan first and foremost? Obviously, we were thinking about the fan before that, but there was a special need for ESPN to show up as a brand to serve fans in this moment. There were no live games. There was hardly any original content to watch. And we were, not me, I should say, but the production team was working on building something that we knew from the jump was going to be iconic. But now, especially in this moment of need, it was like, how do we serve the fans? So there was talk about, like, do we move it up? Or do we keep the original date? Or how much do we move it up? And there was a little bit of like building the ship while we were sailing it, to be perfectly honest with you, because of the timing. But everyone basically like doubled down. And the KPI was basically like getting to watch Twitter at the time when Twitter was still what it was. And literally see the reaction of people saying like, thank you, ESPN, because it gave people things to talk about. People were watching together. It was like people my generation and older now sitting with their kids, like explaining who MJ was, because you got to remember too, there was a point in time where MJ was not considered a GOAT by anyone, right? He became the crying meme. He was like dad jean wearing guy. He was looking washed, right? Like people kind of forgot all of his accomplishments and his greatness as an athlete. This film was a catalyst in a lot of ways for a reminder of who he was and bringing him back into those conversations where he rightfully belonged. And that was a true measure of success for us, was really serving the fan.
The crying meme is a classic. Though. I'm just,
but have you seen it? The way it was used?
Listen, he got the rings. He got the rings and all the accolades. But the crying meme is a classic.
It'll always be used.
It has to go down in the Hall of Fame as one of the highest memes used.
It was even, I should say, there was even some anecdotal things we saw on social media where people like apologizing for using it, like after seeing his story and being like, "Yo, my bad, we
you are the man."
Dirty. Yeah.
So what was your favorite moment in that documentary? Because you said you just watched like hundreds of hours of rough clips. What was the one moment that or one lesson you took out of it that was like, oh wow, he's really dope?
I mean, the number of people they interviewed, like that sat down to interview, that the range of that, right? Just goes to show you the impact of someone like Michael Jordan. So you're talking about sneaker culture, of course, like politics. We have like Barack Obama sit down for an interview. And again, I was not part of film production, but the team prior to my joining had cut a trailer. I'll send you a link after if you haven't seen it. That was just instrumental. And it had this moment of like the beat drop. And when the beat dropped, it was when Obama was sitting, literally just going to sit in a chair. And I had chills. And I was like, I am so glad I get to be a part of this project, because that literally nothing was said in the trailer. Absolutely nothing.
Right.
But the cutting of the interviewee sitting down to the music and the places that they put certain people and drops in the music, I was like, this is art.
So did it make you cry?
No, it gave me chills.
Okay, because if you did cry, you would have had this face.
Walked right into that.
He's ready to pause.
So disrespectful.
He's ready to pause. I'm sitting there wondering why he's tired.
Couldn't let you get away from it.
You know, what's interesting now, I'm going to make it real sad now.
Right.
So November 19, you remember in February 2020, we lost Kobe.
Yeah.
And so MJ was at the funeral. He talked about the crying. He was like, oh, you guys going to get me crying again. That was something else we had to think about, because the team had interviewed Kobe before he passed away. And there was discussion around how do we treat not just Kobe in the film, but like, do we use Kobe as a mechanism to promote the film? Right. And like ethically, there's a fine
hard
line,
choice.
right?
Yeah,
it is, because
choice.
like normally, I mean, had he not passed, it'd been like easy. Of course, we're using Kobe.
Yep.
But now it had been 3 months. There had been some discussion around, you know, like, is it necessary to promote? I forgot what episode he's in. Let's say it's episode 6. Is it necessary to promote like the third night? Is it gratuitous? Are we able to do it in a way where it honors him? But we did want to signal to people like, hey, like this is the Kobe episode. And there was a moment where like, even after his passing, because it was so traumatic. And then we were in this traumatic moment collectively as a globe, where I think people wanted to be able to hear from him, right? This was like one of his last interviews probably. Yeah. So we made a decision to cut it to see what it looked like, and edit it in a way that was more like, I think it was a scene of him passing Michael Jordan in the locker room after a game. And they just kind of like gave each other a pound. And we're like, that's all we need. There's like a moment of like respect. And it wasn't about like all about Kobe. We just kind of had like a moment where we could signal it, but do so in a respectful way.
That's a great point though.
No, I mean, you know, shout out. And I want to bring this up because this is very, very important, right? there's a big difference between putting out something that you know monetarily is going to do beneficial things for the company and taking the time to be ethically correct. Okay, this is a major issue now with the Black and brown community, with a lot of these companies that they're already super successful, but they're not taking the time out to be ethically correct, right? You guys taking the time out to think about not only the impact to his family, first and foremost, but the millions and millions of fans that adore and respect this man and what he meant to the Black and brown culture is that itself. You understand what I'm saying? Because you could have just been like, yo, we're going to use it. We got the interview. It's already cleared and we're going to use it.
Right.
And it would have been expected.
And it would have been expected. But to take the time to do it tastefully, the way you guys did it, we got to give you, I want to give you a round of applause for that, because a lot of times I say we have to get back to what's called the human effect. And a lot of these big corporations lose that. We have to get back to what's called the human effect. Yeah, it doesn't seem surreal because it's not you. It's not your family. And a lot of times I think we forget about that when we think about capitalism and making money. We forget about the things that we do affect people's families and people's lives in real time, right? So, shout out and kudos to you guys for actually taking the time to do that. They did the same thing in Fast and the Furious, if you remember, with Paul Walker, right? They was up against the same exact situation where he's in the movie. He passed away before the finishing of the movie. We want to add him in the movie, but how do we do it tastefully?
Right. Even Black Panther, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
and
Black
Panther.
You have to acknowledge.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, kudos to you guys because, heavy is the head that wears the crown. There is no excuse. Here's the thing. There's no excuse. When these labels and stuff, they put out these ads and then you want to backtrack and say you're sorry. You're not fucking sorry. You're not sorry. And I'm glad you said what you said, because you're an example of people being honest and forefront, saying, listen, do you know how many steps this film goes through? Approval process? Do you know how many different people's eyes are on this film? So don't think that one person dropped the ball and nobody else seen this shit. 15 other people seen this and it still got okayed up the ladder. That should tell you something about the company you're working for in general. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
At times, the problem is, even if it's 15 layers, who are those
15
layers? Do they come from different backgrounds? Do they represent, the population that you're serving? If there's not enough diversity of thought, there's not diversity within race and culture for people to say, like, wait a minute, that's not cool. Or for us, this means this. And like, we see it this way. You have to have those other lenses. And that was something we took a lot of time. We have a committee within ESPN called the Inclusive Content Committee, the ICC. Okay. Which is built of, I was a member at the time.
I've never heard of that, just so you know. So this is interesting to me.
That we get sent anything. So I don't remember how big the group is at this point. I want to say at least 30 people who volunteer their time, they're employees that have different perspectives, whether you're part of the LGBTQ plus community, whether you're Latino, whether you're Black, whether you're white, whether you're Jewish, whatever your perspective is. You're asked to come to the table and bring your perspective. You don't have to justify it. You just have to look at it through your lens and offer feedback. And so writers, film producers, segment producers would send us content to review, and they could take or leave our feedback. A lot of times our feedback would conflict, but it was such an awesome experience to be a part of it. I mean, it really opened my eyes to things that I hadn't really considered before. Like the C word in the Black and African American community, I didn't realize was such a triggering word. And I say that I'm not afraid to be ignorant and be educated. And so we were talking about in an article where an athlete at the time was being like cyberbullied, to put it lightly, and the N word was being used and the C word was being used. Like in the article, do you hyphenate both words? Is it gratuitous to keep using the words? Like, do they shorten the quotes that were put in his feed? But we had a healthy conversation around it. And my point of view was, you know what, when you shorten what this person felt like they had the right to say to this other human being, it almost loses how disgusting it was. And I think you need to make people feel uncomfortable. Because the more you make those conversations comfortable, the more it's okay. And I was like, but I say that also not being someone who benefits from my privilege and doesn't understand how hurtful it can be to see those other words even hyphenated in print. So I said, like, that's my perspective. I think the goal is to make people uncomfortable that they shouldn't be okay using those words.
Yeah.
But if the community says, no, this is too far, I fully respect that too. So it was just like a beautiful way to have conversations around how do we tell the story? How do we be on the right side of history? How do we say all these things that we need to say, but also being mindful of, like, we don't need to drop these words, like sprinkling it throughout the article to make it so impactful, but how do we do it in a way where people do get a little uneasy and hopefully stop some of the behavior? But that was one of the coolest things that did ESPN, was being part of that committee.
That's an art and science to that.
You know, that's absolutely amazing, and I'm not being funny at all. I didn't even think they did that.
But the issue is, though, like, and you mentioned it, P, was how it conflicts, right? So you're in inclusive content, and now we have the approval people, and we're telling you, yo, this doesn't fly in our culture, and then you're saying, well, I just feel like they're doing it. Sometimes it could be performative, and I'm pretty sure
I haven't seen it, and I'm being real honest with you. I haven't seen it, because I think if you take the time to send it, you don't have to send your stuff to the ICC. But if you take the time to do it, I think you're someone who cares about telling the story right. And I say we got a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. And there's been, I think, just a desire to be better, and just an acknowledgement that we don't always have their perspective, especially, within the work I did. A lot of the stories we did were promoting stories about humanity, right? So like what you were saying before, these are human beings. And the stories that we tell and the way we market these things really impact them and their families. Yes, they're large figures, but they're people at the end of the day.
Right.
And I didn't have the perspective on my team from someone who was like a professional former athlete, or someone who was male, or even part of the Black community. So like I had to take the extra steps to always go through the ICC to make sure that I wasn't missing something, that I didn't have a blind spot, because I just don't have that life experience and perspective.
That's real.
You
even acknowledge that.
Hold on.
Message. They even acknowledge that. Real.
So no, they've been doing it for years, right? Advertisers do it. A lot of companies do it. Essentially, what you guys did was formulate a huge focus group, which again, I love it, right? The problem with it is like I said, when you don't do something like that, if you try to obtain knowledge about something that you don't have knowledge about, you ask a question, then guess what? You get an answer. Now, whether you like the answer or not, but at least you got an answer, right? You got an answer. But it's when you don't even make the attempt to say, is this right? And you just be like, I don't care. I'm going to do what I want to do. That in lies. You have to make people feel uncomfortable, because when they feel comfortable, then they repeat their behavior, which is called learned behavior. And if you accept it, even if you don't accept it, if you don't check them on it, and if you don't make them feel uncomfortable, then they never feel like it's wrong. So why would they change something that they don't see as wrong? Nobody's going to do that. You're going to continue doing what you think is right because nobody's checked you on it. But the moment you pull somebody's coattail and say, let me tell you something, don't ever say that again. And well, hold on. Well, I didn't even. That's the point where you can start the conversation and educate them and say, that shit ain't cool. That's not cool.
The problem is it depends where you are in your career. It depends where you are in that moment. There's a lot of variables.
I disagree.
No, I'm going to tell you my experience. No, I'm in the rooms, bro.
No, I'm just saying, though, you have to have your own moral fucking principles. Listen, let me just get on this, and you can say what you want to say. Let me tell you something. I didn't quit fucking jobs. I didn't quit jobs because I will not allow leadership to degrade my men, right? I'm a leader. I lead from the front, not the back of the line. I'm here for the good and the bad. So if we mess up, I'll fall on the sword. But if we doing what we got to do, there's no way I'm going to let you disrespect my men, even if they're not in the room. I've had situations where I've gotten paid and my guys haven't gotten paid. And they're like, oh, your check is good. Why are you worried? Because I'm a leader and I refuse to be a part of a system that does that. So it doesn't matter what part of your career you're in. It only matters the fortitude of your personal moral factor and say, I'm not standing for this, and it doesn't matter what has to happen. Until that happens more so across the board, then we're always going to be stuck at where we are.
But what the difference is, everybody's in different places of where they are. You were in a privileged position to be like, yo, I can take that. I can fall on the sword. I might have a little nest egg or something like that. But what about the person with 3-4 kids that just got the job at the big company and is like, yo, I might have to shut the hell up in order to progress my. It happens, Pete. Doesn't happen?
I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm saying that wasn't my position.
What's your perspective?
So I'll say
go ahead, Pete.
I'll say two things. So I would say it's hard. But I will say that, yes, there are definitely times in my career where I have closed my mouth because I was earlier in my career. I would say even I dressed different, right? To assimilate, right? This curly hair and these hoops, they didn't come out till later in my career, you know?
Yeah, facts.
It should not have been, but admittedly, you know, there was a delay in that. But I will say I have come to more of your position where I don't come to work to be disrespected. Exactly. My mother taught me that.
Hold on, I gotta give you the message. No, I'm serious.
I do not come to work to be disrespected. And I have had interactions with people that were titled higher than me, and people, my peers, and people that were titled lower than me. And my position was always the same. I do not come to work to be disrespected. There's mutual respect and understanding from me, from everyone. I'm always willing to talk about what happened. I make mistakes. I mess up. Right. So do you. We're all human beings. At the end of the day, we're trying to get food on the table for our families, and we're trying to do dope shit here. So let's work together to do it. But I will say that it's definitely not always rewarded behavior, which is what makes it hard for people.
That's real. That's the real.
It's, and I applaud you on that, right? So let me just tell you, Jarrett, right? I remember, you know me, right? I worked my way up the ladder. Like Patricia said, I'm not privileged where I came in and was given a foreman spot or given leadership. I started out at the apprentice level, right? Learning under people. But even then, on a lot of jobs, if I come to work, I'm on time every day, and I bust my ass every day, you're not disrespecting me.
For sure.
Let's be clear, right? So P, and me and Jarrett say this all the time, right? And you're gonna hear a lot, and this is gonna be the kickback from a lot of urban males that come from the black and brown community, that come from poverty. We don't tolerate disrespect in the streets. It's no way that I left the streets doing ignorant shit to come and do the right thing, and I don't tolerate that out there, and I'm gonna tolerate it here. That's where you're gonna have the most enormous kickback ever. You're like, I wouldn't let a person in the street talk to me like that. And you think that you're gonna talk to me like that? And just because you're sitting behind a desk, do you understand? Because it's the disconnect from the culture, right? Because you don't know how you think that you're saying something, how I'm receiving it. Because you're not taking the time to think about what you're saying and how I'm receiving it. Now, I have to tell you this, right? I come from a family that I didn't know at the time that's very military based, right? So I didn't know that, right? So I guess I have instilled in me like a certain moral compass, right? And the older I get, I call myself like being more radicalized towards, I will not allow the disrespect of my people. I'm going to say it again, not me, but I will not allow the disrespect of my people in general, right? So I don't buy Gucci no more. And I don't buy all these brands no more. I don't buy Timberland no more. Once you come out and blatantly, now we all know racism exists and stuff like that exists behind the scenes, but once you come out and blatantly show disrespect to my community, I can't never support you again, ever. Because now you've spit in my face, and then you think a little apology, $1 billion company is gonna apologize for some shit that I know that a senior advisor looked at, or a senior management, advertising guy looked at and seen that and knew it was wrong and put it out anyway. No, I'm not buying that.
But that's the same. But isn't that the same thing we're saying about somebody saying it? You may feel strong enough to not buy Gucci, but guess what? The Gucci line is still outside the door.
And I understand that, but guess what? Let me tell you what the pandemic did. It did two things. One thing, Pete, that you acknowledge, you don't come to work to be disrespected, right? Guess what the pandemic did? It showed people that our value is a lot higher than these companies were letting us on and letting us believe to be. Do you know how many black and brown millionaires were made from the pandemic?
I do not.
You understand what I'm saying? It's huge. It's like one of the biggest millionaire booms in history, right? For people creating their own businesses, right? And putting, right, belief in their self to say, I know I work for you and I do this and I'm making you all this money, so why can't I do it for myself? And it forced them to do that. That's number one. Number two is what it did is it started making people take ownership. It started making people take ownership and saying, why am I supporting you? Right now we're talking about support, right? Why am I supporting brands that's not supporting my community? Because we have a duty to the people. Patricia, you're able to sit there as forget ethnicity. We're talking about just women's rights in general. Remember back in the day what women's rights were, right? Women were the last ones to get rights in the scale of how rights were handed down, right?
And they're slipping.
Thank you. So now you understand where I'm going with this, right? Think about the sacrifices of people that came before you, that they had to fall on that sword and they didn't get even a quarter, an eighth of the reward that somebody else got generations later, right? We are only able to sit here today in the capacity that we're sitting here today due to the fact of what our ancestors did, and they sacrificed what, for their beliefs, feeling like what I'm going to do is going to affect generations later on down the line. So with that in my soul, I have to be a certain way. I have to be a certain way, and I have to understand that the sacrifices that I make right now I might not benefit from it in my lifetime, but other people and people are going to benefit from it in future lifetimes. That technically is what generational wealth building is, Jarrett. We're doing all of this right now to do what? What are you doing this for, Jarrett?
Yeah, for generational wealth.
Thank you. For your sons and the family that comes and your family that comes behind it.
Yeah, as strong as me, you stand on that. Not everybody's going to stand on that.
No. I'm not saying
everybody's going to stand on it.
No, I'm not saying they are. But what I'm saying is, if enough of us have at least this conversation, do you know what that does? It opens the door for future conversations, and it's within those conversations that you start educating people. And once you start educating people, if you know better, normally you do better.
That's a fact, though. And speaking of educating people, P, I want to know about like your upbringing in like how did you get started in your career? How did you get in here? Like, and tell us about your, where you grew up. You're from New York City, I'm assuming, right?
Queens.
From Queens. Queens get the money. Queens get the money.
I'm gonna tell you something.
You better not say anything about Queens.
No, I have to. I'm gonna give you one of the best compliments ever, right? Bronx guys, Brooklyn guys. Everybody knows you want you a girlfriend. We stay in our boroughs. You want you a wife. You go to Queens. Queens has some of the most beautiful, domesticated. It's the culture is different.
Never heard that.
I'm telling you right now. Because a lot of the urban communities, projects and stuff, the girls are raised a little different. In Queens, it's more houses and the culture is different. Why you think coming to America he went to Queens? He didn't come to the Bronx. Think about it. Come to the Bronx. He didn't go to Brooklyn. Where did he go? Where did Eddie Murphy go? Where did Eddie Murphy go? He went to Queens.
Hold on. We are not going to be disrespectful to the other women from the other boroughs.
I'm not saying that. I'm not. It is what it is.
I'm repping my Queens girls here, but
now I got to give you a clap.
To the Bronx, Staten Island, Brooklyn, the city.
Listen, Queens got it. It is what it is. Yeah, I got it. It is what it is.
We're like the United Nations,
I'm telling you. The upbringing is just different.
so tell us about what is the upbringing in Queens?
I'm from Queens. I'm from Woodside.
Woodside.
Yeah. I wouldn't grow up in the hood, but maybe like hood adjacent, perhaps.
I like how you put that.
What did I just say? AKA, we didn't live in the projects.
But adjacent.
We lived across the street from the projects.
So
I love it.
I went to public school my whole life. So I went to public school. My zone school for high school, though, wasn't optimal.
Okay.
For me, according to my parents. So I went to Cardozo High School out in Bayside, still in Queens.
Okay.
And so I was in like a dance program. I was in a law program. And I was like, I'm going to go to law school. And then
Bayside is a little further out, though. You know that.
I had to take a long bus ride.
Yeah. Bayside is a little further out. You know that. Okay.
Yeah. So I went to SUNY Binghamton for undergrad. I was a philosophy, politics, and law major. I was doing internships at a corporate law firm in the city. So, I've been working since I was 15. So I've been like at nonprofits, like different legal things my whole life. I worked for the county, doing family law. I did corporate law internship, and I also did Latino justice. I also worked in their education division for a while. After all of those rotations and flavors of law, I found it fascinating, but I was like, I don't want to do this for my life. But I was almost done with my degree.
Was there something that stood out that made you want it? Was there a moment that made you
There wasn't a moment. I just couldn't find like my spark. I don't know. Like I don't know if you saw that movie. You're like looking for your spark. I'm so fascinated by law and the ways that, case law is like applied and like the creativity around, sometimes not used for good, but the creativity around like creating these structures and really thinking about the impact of like the lasting impact of a decision that's made here for like something that comes later. Like that was really dope for me. But
did you want to be a lawyer as a kid, though? Did you want to be a lawyer as a kid?
No, it was like high school. I used to go to school on Saturdays, like a special law class on Saturdays on my own time to learn about constitutional law. That's how much I was into this thing. Wow. And then junior year of college, I was like when it came time to take like the LSAT, I don't know, maybe I got cold feet. But I had already done a lot of work in nonprofits. So I was like, I'm just going to stick with that. So I went back to Latino Justice and I was volunteering with them while I was looking for a full-time job. I ended up getting a job in Staten Island on the North Shore of Staten Island, which is more Black, brown community at a school, small Catholic school called Immaculate Conception School. Unfortunately, is now a charter school.
Immaculate Conception.
Immaculate Conception School, Catholic school.
That's the name of the school?
Yeah.
You never heard of it?
There's a lot of Immaculate Conception.
They named
like the Virgin Mary.
Yeah, the Archdiocese.
No, I know what it is. I know what it is, but to name a school,
that's not new. That's not like an odd name.
Wow.
Yeah,
to me, I've always heard of the Cardinal Hayes, Cardinal this, Cardinal that, and
Immaculate Conception,
Sacred Hearts.
I've heard of Sacred Heart, but I've never heard of Immaculate Conception. Wow.
Just to kick their ass.
Stapleton, Staten Island. Shout out to Stapleton, Targee Street.
Did you know that a lot of people that aspire to be in politics or aspire to eventually be like a senator or a president, their degrees is in constitutional law. That's one of the best degrees to get if you want to be like in politics and maybe become a president, is to study the constitutional law degree. Did you know that?
I did.
Yeah.
But maybe there's hope for me. There's hope for me.
Listen, why not?
Everybody right now.
Listen, look. PY 2028. Listen, you announced it. You announced it on MTAP first. Listen, we heard it here first. You might have a running going.
So I was director of development. Technically, it was my job was basically like fundraising for the school. So they charged tuition, but most of the students at the time were either at or below the poverty line. That's where their families lived. So even paying tuition, which was very, very reasonable, was difficult. Excuse me. So I had to the Archdiocese would give out needs-based grants, but then there was no money for anything else. So if you think about regular family life, if there's a field trip, mom and dad can give you like a little bit of money to go on the field trip. If you wanted to read books at home, there was money to buy some books and you had like a home library. None of these things were an option for the kids, even access to computers. They got fed only if they came to school. So there was some real impact to the work I was doing there. And so I wrote grants. And so I got funding for the library teacher salary. So they had time and access to books every week. One of my most proud things, one of the things I'm most proud of is getting funding to replace the fence at the school. The fence was a chain link fence with barbed wire on the top. And I was like, these kids should not feel like they're going to prison every day. They should feel like they're coming to some haven. The inside of the school was beautiful, thanks to the art teacher. She painted these murals all over the hallway. And I got like a traditional school, like black wrought iron fence before I left. And I hope it's still there. I haven't been by the school in a while.
Did you say,
I'm proud of.
Chain link I can understand because they're very inexpensive and easy to put up. We put those up all the time. But you said barbed wire. Mm-hmm. On a Catholic school.
Yeah, I don't know why it was there.
You see, this is what I'm saying. You see, so now you understand, like, paint this. So look, you're painting a picture for me. I'm like, I've never heard of this school name. And they have chain link and barbed wire on a Catholic school? Like.
That's Stapleton for you.
Look. So this is, Stapleton. This is Staten Island.
Yes.
Makes sense now. Shout to Methanum. That's the woo. Now it's making sense. Oh, Stapleton. Yeah, now we understand why you got the barbed wire up there. It's not to keep the kids from going out, it's to keep the barbed wire from coming.
Keep ghosting them out.
Listen, Old Dirty, you're not allowed inside this school.
Now he can come through.
OD.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah.
From there, I went to work at another nonprofit called Hispanics in Philanthropy, and that was the other side of the table. So I wasn't writing the grants anymore. I was reviewing applications, and we were serving Latino-led, Latino-serving nonprofits that were already serving the community. And I had Philly, the Metro DC area, and Puerto Rico as my territories. Nice. So they were already doing dope work. And a lot of the grants that are out there for nonprofits are, I always say, for the sexy things, right? They want to be able to put their name on a building, and those things are needed. So no shade there. But we always gave out capacity building grants. So it was like, how do we build the capacity of what you can already do because you're already doing great things? So that might be training your accountant on QuickBooks, so you're not doing everything manually now. And now you have more time and resources available to like serve the youth in the community or serve the elderly. So we would do like the non-sexy grants, but it would like build the capacity of these organizations to keep doing what they were doing. So I did that for a few years. Nice. And that is where I discovered that I loved marketing. Didn't even think about marketing. I was just going to go on this nonprofit path. I was going to go to a foundation. So have you ever worked nonprofits?
Yeah, I've worked for a nonprofit organization.
Or a startup. There's like too many jobs, not enough people, right? So you have to wear multiple hats.
We had one for the community. It was called the 163rd Street Improvement Council. And it started off from, I believe, I'm sorry, that's my phone. It started off with being a community-based program for underprivileged people that needed help in the community, and like shelter programs and low-income housing, and it grew from there. So I do understand the workings of it. It's a lot of work.
Yes.
A lot of work.
So I was really managing a grant program, but our 25th anniversary was coming up. Our headquarters was in San Francisco. They had already had this huge 25th anniversary celebration out in San Francisco with our funders. And the president decided she wanted to have something similar in New York. But there was no budget and there was no staff.
Right.
And our New York office was there was 3 of us in the New York office. So I had to figure it out. I had to figure out how to get an invitation made. I had to figure out like a space to host. I had to figure out catering. I had to figure out who we're inviting. And we had some honorees. And I would say that we gave Lin-Manuel Miranda an award at the time before he was who he's become today. I think he was probably becoming at the time. And in doing that, I was kind of like, hold on, now we're building like a communication newsletter. I was updating the website, and I will always credit nonprofits to teaching me to be resourceful, because there is no one there to tell you how, and you just got to figure it out. You got to have a little bit of grit and a little bit of curiosity, and then you're good. Yeah. So that's where I was like, you know what? All these extracurricular activities are actually inspiring me more. And it's a lot of hard work, but I like this. How do I do this for a job and then let someone else do grant making? And that became the journey, which was not easy. I was like, I need to get an MBA. So I did all these things to get into Baruch, and I was studying and I was still applying to jobs. And then I got a job in sales at Disney and ESPN Media Network.
Did you go to Zicklin School? I got accepted. I
did.
Yeah, shout out to Baruch. So I got accepted to go to Baruch too. I was gonna go to Zicklin School to finish off my MBA, and then I pivoted.
Side note: I also did not finish my MBA.
Right. So we in the same boat. Shout out to Baruch. Right, shout out to Baruch.
Shout out for getting us started, Baruch.
Yeah. Shout out to Zicklin School of Business, which again, right? Just to shout out Baruch. It's a CUNY, and it's still rated one of the #1 business schools in the country. I'm gonna say it again. It's a CUNY, which means it's not private. It's not gonna cost you $120,000 for education, and it's still rated one of the #1 business schools in the country.
Yeah, I got into Fordham, and
don't go to Fordham. See, don't go to Fordham.
3 times more expensive.
Right, Fordham is private. You're gonna sell a kidney and maybe your left leg. Fordham is no joke. It's like $18,000, $20,000 a semester. It's ridiculous. Yeah, Fordham's super expensive.
Yeah.
So I'm curious now. So, and I like to read a lot, right? So they were saying, I read an article one time, or actually I read a couple articles one time that said something like, in your lifetime, you will actually change what you want to do 3 times, right? They say like the adolescent brain envisions something. Well, this is most people, right? You have the select 1% that's like, I'm going to be a boxer. This is all I'm doing. I'm going to be a singer. I'm going to be a rapper. And they don't have a plan B. And this is what, this is what they do. But they said the average human being in your adolescence, right, all the way leading up to, let's call it high school, you'll have a vision of something you lock onto that what you want to do. As you start that process, maybe into college, depending on how your college education and your experience goes, you'll change it again there, which is like your late 20s. And then in your early 30s, they'll say you'll change again into the career that you'll kind of be in for the rest of your life, which makes sense because then there's another study that says, and this is really high, it's like, I think it's above 80% of the people that get degrees in something actually don't work in the field that you got your degree in.
Voila.
Right? Right? So that makes sense, right? So, you know.
Yeah, I'm textbook according to that study. It looks like I have one more career path in me.
Listen, me and you too. My first degree was in computers. My second degree is in business, and I'm doing a podcast. Well, it relates to business, but I pivoted to do construction. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm with you. Like we all over the place. Sales. Yeah, I don't. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
I'm going to the sales.
I don't know, man. Yeah.
I have a question for you guys, and I think about this a lot. Do you think sometimes it's because, and I say this from my own experience, we don't always have, we as in people of color, don't always have the examples within our communities or our families to know kind of like what's out there. And as you start going through life and going through college, you kind of like discover new things. Because like I didn't know that you can get paid to like, advertising just wasn't like an option for me. You know, like my dad was a jeweler for a while. You know, he had a coffee car when he first came to this country. He drove a taxi like growing up. Like those were jobs, right? And my mom, she did a lot of like sewing jobs when she first came here, and then she landed a job at the city of New York working in like the welfare office, and she just worked there until she retired. So like my mom had an office job, my dad was more of like a blue collar worker, and then you know, like but becoming a lawyer even was like like I was gonna go to law school, you know, like that was a huge thing. But the idea of being anything other than like, you know, doctor, lawyer, or like what my parents did, or teacher. You know, like I didn't really know all these other flavors of type of work, even working within media or television, understanding how television was distributed and sold. Like I had to learn all of that stuff. It's why I didn't finish my MBA. Yeah. Because when I got that job, I was like, I'm like literally learning all day, like this industry, and trying to figure out my job and like trying not to mess this up, this opportunity to work for the Walt Disney Company. I don't have any extra brain cells to like now do this other stuff at night. So I actually withdrew and with the intention to go back, because the Walt Disney Company was willing to pay for those types of things at the time. And I never went back because I kept changing jobs. I kept like finding a new curiosity, new problem to solve, I'm like, oh, they're doing some dope shit over there. Let me go try that.
Yeah. That's how it was for me. I ain't gonna lie to you. Yeah. Like for me, PY, like I lucked into it. Like we didn't have, like you said, we're from the Bronx. I didn't have anybody that was in sales. I didn't have nobody that was in marketing. Like you said, my father worked 2 jobs for 27 years.
Time out. You had somebody that was in sales.
Who? Yeah, I was in sales. Shit.
No.
We're not gonna talk about that here.
You had people that was in sales now. Don't you discount that.
I was in sales. I had sales going.
You had people that was in sales now. Don't you discount that.
That's what I prefer. I was a pharmaceutical engineer.
You knew people in sales now. Don't you dare tell that lie on camera.
We don't have that in Queens.
Not the part of Queens you was in.
I said it's
Go ahead, John.
It's a supreme team for a reason.
But right. 50 grew up on South Side. South out the South Side. Yeah.
Well, real talk.
Go ahead, though.
Like real talk. Like so, my mom was two jobs, 27 years. My mom was assistant principal, right? All of my family is straight blue collar, all in the system, and they work for the schools, right? Me, I'm looking at that shit like, look, you're gonna work to 65 years old. We're gonna retire, and then what does that look like for me? Yeah. Like, what does that literally look like? I'm gonna be 65 and I get to go to Florida, go to Miami, get big belly, and like, nah, that's not for me. So what I did was I was working in mortgage spots. I was smelling like ribs at BBQs. I was doing Starbucks. And then I lucked into a role. Some dude overheard me speaking, and I'm like, he's like, hey, are you interested in sales? I'm like, how much is it? He said $40,000 a year. I said, sold. You ain't got to tell me shit else. You know what I'm saying? It's better than this. I'm smelling like ribs, bro. Stop playing with me.
I mean, time out. We appreciated the Texas-sized drinks that you used to bring to us.
It was the real.
And the discounts that we got on the bill.
They used to call me numbers and dog. I get a $20 tip and a number.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
I kid you not. But like, when my son was born, I was like, I gotta quit. I gotta stop this shit. So he put me into the joint. I go to recruiting, and I'm doing display and banner ads. So I knew nothing about digital marketing. I'm like, okay, cool. So now I'm like, okay, you go to a website. This is why this ad. This is the cost of this ad. This is the algorithm behind it to show this ad. Then I started getting curious, like you said, like, damn, there's so many moving pieces to this stuff, and there's a lot of money being made. And I just fell in love with commission checks. I was like, what's I heard the work? I mean, woo, just the commission sitting at 4,000 or 5,000 on the back end. Woo. Fell in love with that shit immediately. But then you realize not everybody's afforded those opportunities, right? Then you look at the industry as a whole. How do you get to the top of the ladder, right? I'm looking at all those things, and I didn't see anybody that looked like me. I had no mentor. I had nobody. I was wearing baggy pants with Pradas, braids down my back, and I lucked into some stuff. I lucked into con. I lucked into be a VP, and I had to work my way there. But the problem is now, it's like what I was doing with the personal branding stuff, right? So I'm building a personal brand. I could get a job and all that else. I was working at Hootsuite, got laid off. I was the top performer. Couldn't get a job 3 months after, and I got 20,000 followers. I'm doing 5 million impressions on LinkedIn. Why is that? So instead of me sitting there knocking down your door for that, we created our own opportunity. We created our own, and we said we're going to monetize ourselves. So, but there was no, and like you said with the ESPN, we're winging it. We're paving the road as we drive. You know what I mean? So it's very difficult when you don't have that. But that's the reason for this show, right? To show people like you could be dope. You could wear your hat and hoodie. And you can make $1 million. You could do this. You can interview people like T.Y. You can interview Marcus Collins. You can interview like real shit. And
but you just dropped the gym. You just dropped the gym, and you didn't even realize that too. Look,
I did realize it.
Listen.
That's my shit.
You were a VP. One of the youngest VPs to ever do it at the level that you were doing it, right? Yeah. Technically, with no formal education.
None. From Evander Childs High School,
right?
baby.
Now watch this, right? And we're talking collegiate level, right? When we talk formal education.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But watch how funny this is, right? Me and P went to school. Let's say me and P finished our business degrees, right? Okay, P, we got our MBAs, right? We'll go get a job. And when we get to work, the first thing they're going to do is say, forget everything they fucking taught you in school. We're going to teach you how we do it in the real world. P, am I lying, P?
No.
P, yo, I've ran into this so many times, right? Where people come out of school and you know what the textbook taught you, and you get to the job and they be like, do me a favor, forget all that bullshit they taught you and whatever school is on your fucking degree, we're going to teach you how to do it the right way here, which we had this conversation, Jarrett, before about how important on-the-job training is.
Yes.
How important apprenticeships, they're way more valuable than formal education. But again, coming from a system where formal education used to be the only way to climb the ladder. It used to be, it's the name on your degree. Not even what you know. I went to Yale. Okay?
That's it. Doesn't matter what you do.
It doesn't matter. I was a D student. A D student. It doesn't matter. I was the lowest in my class. It doesn't matter. My degree says Yale. But now with society and social media and what the pandemic has showed us is it doesn't matter if you have a formal education or not. It only matters if you have what it takes here and what it takes here to get up and do it every day to be successful, right? So when you get on these jobs, I think it's so much more important to stop. Yes, if somebody has a formal education, I'm not discounting it. It shows that they've taken the time to dedicate themselves to learning their craft. I'm not discounting it. I'm just saying, do not discount the person that has the energy, that has the enthusiasm, that has the work ethic to get that job, because that's the person that'll outwork the person with the degree from Yale or whatever they got their degree from every day of the week. I'm telling you, hard work beats talent every day, twice on Sundays.
Every day. So, but P, though, when you got into sales, though, so you didn't have the training, so you was like me. You were like, I've got the gift of gab, I can understand and I can solve problems. Like, what was that like when you got into sales? What was that shift like?
Oh, it was scary.
I can imagine.
It was scary. Well, I would say it was, it's a Fortune 500 company. I had never, again, didn't have the examples. And there's one thing I will say about working at Disney and ESPN are the people.
Right.
There is not a single person that I have ever interacted with at all sorts of levels that I have stopped and said like, hey, I want to talk to you about what you do. I want to better understand your part of the business, that has said no to me. Wow. Every single person, every time has always said yes.
Wow.
That's super dope.
And so in that environment, someone who's curious can thrive, right? Because there's no door closed to you. Literally, figuratively, you can figure it out if you want to. You can learn, you can ask questions. Honestly, if you're not asking questions, it's kind of a red flag for everyone. And somebody's going to pull you aside and be like, how come you don't have any questions? You can't possibly know. You've been here for 2 months. That's a joke. You need to start asking your questions. You need to start raising your hand in meetings. Like, if you're not here to learn, why are you here? Because don't come after being here a year asking me questions you should have been asking me month one.
You had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
You know what I'm saying? Like, think of Jarrett, just listen to the environment that she just told you she works in, that is not an everyday environment, bro.
No.
That is one of the 1%. Like, imagine if we had jobs like that said, why are you not curious? Why are you not asking me a question on how to do your job better? You don't want to learn about this. Can you imagine how people would elevate themselves?
But that's why the brands are what they are, because of it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And like,
right.
what I'm curious, because as you're starting in sales, right, you're getting the tutelage from all these people, you're around great people.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to Latino women, Black women who are coming up right now that are looking to climb that corporate ladder? Like, what's the best lesson or biggest advice you would give to them?
Okay.
I always say be bold and dream big.
Okay.
Real talk.
Be bold in the sense of, knowing that you have a right to sit at the table, that you have a right to show up authentically as you are, that you don't have to be disrespected at your job, going back to what we said earlier.
Yeah.
And to ask the questions, because you don't know, especially if you're a junior employee, if you just got hired like fresh out of college, they don't expect you to know. So while you have that I'm new card, pimp it.
Yeah.
Ask all the questions, meet all the people. You literally have a free pass to ask a question and not look crazy. And then just keep that energy going. Keep not looking crazy because you keep asking.
That's
right. The other thing I spend a lot of time when we talk about, not having the role models or the examples is like I spend a lot of time speaking or, showing up. I have a professor I used to work, I took a course with at NYU I think before or after the pandemic. I can't even remember anymore. Right before the pandemic. And now I do guest speaking with him.
Nice.
I speak in his class twice a year, and sometimes it's international students, sometimes it's people from New York, people from the US, but there's always like one or two students that I end up like having a connection with and making an impact with.
Right.
And you just never know. So many people have done that for me in my career, and there is an obligation for those of us who have made it through, who have learned how to navigate, to share, preach the gospel, whatever it is. Somebody shows up crazy to the job. That's not how we do things here. You need to pull that person aside.
Message.
You're not asking questions in meetings, and I see that that's what's expected here. I'm going to pull you aside and be like, you need to refocus here.
You know what that's called? You know what that's called, right? Paying it forward.
That's it.
You got to pay it forward. That's what I was talking about earlier.
Paying it forward because I'm paying it back.
Yeah. No. Well, when I say paying it forward, meaning somebody helped you out in your time of need, whether it was a conversation, monetary value, doesn't matter. Somebody took their time to give you their time, and you taking your time to give somebody else your time. You're paying it forward to the next person that technically is behind you coming up the ladder. And like you said, and like I said before, it is our obligation.
Yeah.
It is our obligation to do that, because let me tell you what happens. A lot of people, it doesn't matter what your ethnicity is. You're a hard worker. You work your way up the ladder. You might scream like it's not fair until your ass gets into the room. Once you in the room and you get comfortable in the room, you know what you say? Yo, we can't be too many motherfuckers in this room. And then you want to close the door. Then you want to close the door and you say, yo, hold on, we letting too many people in this room. Then you want to start changing shit now that you're in the room. Now that you're in the room. So we have an obligation to say, listen, yes, I'm in the room, but we're not going to close this door. We're going to leave this door open for anybody that has enough to make it into the room. Now, everybody can't come in the room, but if you have enough fortitude and work ethic and experience or whatever to make it into the room, then we're going to invite you in. That's the difference, right? So, applaud again. Once again, I love the fact that ESPN has all of these things. And I never knew this, that the environment was like that. Because I'm going to be honest with you. Look at all the things that people promote, right? You've never seen ESPN promote something like that. I've never seen it. Let me say that. I've never seen ESPN, because, they give out awards, right? To say like one of the top companies to work for in the United States, one of the top companies. And they list the reasons why this is one of the best companies. And the reasons are all based on interviews and polls taken by their employees, right? I've never seen ESPN post something like that and say, we are one of the top 10 companies to work for in the United States. And here's why, right? That would be a great advertisement to show people that you care about. Why not? Why not?
They don't
Here's what I say. Well, if ESPN does it,
right,
it can come off as like showboating, right?
Yeah.
You need somebody else to flex for you on your behalf.
Nah,
That's why those lists are great.
I disagree.
I
gotta
I feel like
disagree.
it's a bad taste in people's mouth. They're like, oh, you're this big company, you think you're the best, this and that. Like,
again, you cannot change. Let's be clear. Can we agree on something? If we can't agree, we'll move past it. Can we agree on this one thing? No matter what you do, no matter what your message is, you will never please everybody. Can we agree on that?
facts.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So now, thank you. So once again, right? So based off of we all agreeing on that, right? It's not about showboating, right? It's not about, everybody's not going to understand the message because you're not trying to reach everybody. You're trying to reach the people that are talented, that are educated, that are enthusiastic, that are looking for this great work environment because they're working in toxic ones over there. And what you're doing is you're spreading awareness to say, even if you didn't understand your environment is toxic, take a look at our environment and then compare it to yours, and then you make the decision for yourself. I think that is phenomenal for the community.
I think that
it's phenomenal for the community.
But the thing is how it works in tech, bro. It's kind of completely opposite, right? They're such a big brand, and you're gonna get so much brand value from being with them that they don't have to promote that. The best talent is already trying to work with them.
Word.
That's just what it is.
But that's if you know about them. And we talked about
ESPN.
No, but again, think about this, right? Watch this. I know about ESPN. I know ESPN is a sports. Watch this. I know ESPN is a sports-based company. Blah blah blah. I didn't know about the ICC. I didn't know about the work environment. And PY can run off a list of other things that ESPN does that I know absolutely nothing about. Am I lying?
Yes.
Thank you. So this is what I'm talking about. And I feel like I'm a big sports guy, so I pay more attention to ESPN. But if you're not a sports person, then you might not even know who ESPN is. You understand? Because there's a lot of people, men and women, that are not sports fanatics. Who is ESPN? I've heard of them, but I don't care about them because I'm not into
what you just said. I've heard of them. That's the brand value. I heard of them. You don't need to say nothing else after that, bro, because guess what? If I go to them, if I'm at ESPN, if I'm at Amazon, if I'm at Google, and I'm at Microsoft, what happens is they get the pick of the litter. It doesn't matter if you were talented, not talented, or anything. We just saw this. There's big layoffs at Facebook, Meta, all these places, right? That's why it's hard to get back in the job market. Why would they want to take orders from me who has a brand value of 5 million impressions? They do X, Y, and Z when they get somebody from Meta that's going to do the same thing.
Got you. Okay.
So it's like it's just like, why would you take me from Hootsuite when you get from ESPN?
I just think we need to raise. Again, I just try to stay on the same level and stay consistent on raising awareness overall. The purpose of this platform is not only to have guests onto the platform, but it's to bring the information from somebody at Patricia's level to somebody at the apprentice level, to somebody maybe still in high school wondering how marketing works, and even if this is possible for a Latina girl with not a lot of resources and might be, you understand what I'm saying? So again, that's where I take it from. It's the awareness of saying like, yeah, we know the cream of the crop and the 1%, 2% understand, but what about the majority of people that don't?
No, and I'm pretty sure Patricia
transferring
didn't know
message
that
to that? That's why I said I think that, advertising something like that, and I'm not talking like, it's not about boasting. Like I said, it's just about advertising something like that and saying, hey, we're one of the top, 50 companies or 25 companies in the country. And this is why I think that definitely will go a long way in changing the culture on how people go to work every day. Right? Look, I give you a perfect example, right? So PY, one of my main jobs is construction. I've been in construction 22 years, okay? We built God knows how many Google offices. Google's a pioneer, one of the pioneers in office space and functionality. When I'm talking about the design of their offices, not cubicles, right? That everybody's used to. Your cubicle, my cubicle. We're talking open floor spaces. We're talking games. We're talking catered food for lunchtime, healthy snacks. We're talking setting up an environment that does not feel you're at work, right? Now, mind you, they're not based off the regular system of come to work, go to coffee room, cubicles. You understand what I'm saying? They're showing you something different, and then they're turning around saying that, guess what? We're one of the top 10 companies in the world for whatever year you want to count, right? Showing you that you can do things a different way and still be successful. Now, when a person looks at Google and a person looks at Amazon and these companies that are now doing this, and they look at their situation, they go, wow, you would, like you said, right, disrespect or a toxic environment, things that you might not even have realized are toxic or disrespectful. When you look at how another company is doing their things and how their layout is, then you have the information to say, oh yeah, this ain't right. This ain't right. And start to effectively make change.
It's a different.
I'm not saying it's difficult. No, I'm not saying it's difficult. What I'm saying is it still needs to happen. If the conversation now, you're saying it's difficult, right? Again, back to our ancestors, right? When we didn't have voting rights, when we segregated in schools, do you think that was difficult? You understand what I'm saying? It still took effort and energy to fight through what the system was based off of, what the normalcy was, to enact the change. And did the change happen immediately? No, it happened over the years. So this is what I'm saying. If these larger companies start setting the example to say, I'm a $1 billion company, I don't need to do this, but I'm doing this to show you that we're changing the culture. It changes the culture. But that's not immediate. But
that's why they invest. But that's why they have the open floor. That's why they are who they are, bro. A startup can't compete with that.
No, but I'm not saying competing. I'm just talking about, again, the message is understanding an environment and understanding if your environment matches the same or changing it. You understand what I'm saying? So a startup can compete with that. If I look at Google and say they have an open floor plan, they don't have cubicles, this is how they treat their employees. Remember, we had I forget who we talked to. I don't know if it was AD. I forgot who we talked to. And one of the best things that they said was, we have people that we work with and they don't work for us. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? That in itself, that statement right there is a complete shake to the foundation of being a worker, period. We have people we work with, not that work for us. Do you understand the message in that? So that's what I'm talking about. So as a startup, it doesn't matter if you're a startup. If you adopt that mentality from the beginning and say, we want people to work with us, even though you're an employee, we want you to work with us. We're going to set up an environment that makes you feel comfortable, where you want to come to work. PY, how many jobs have you had where you're like, I'm not going to fucking work today? You know what I'm saying? How many Americans do you believe dread, and I mean dread, getting out of bed every day to go to work?
I would say more than half, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Too many is the answer. Not many people love to say, I don't even have a job. I love what I do. How many people you know say that?
If you're at Google making 400, I love my job
no,
too.
you're missing it. You're missing it. See, you're missing it. It's not the money. It is not the money.
It's
not.
Stop it.
Listen, let me tell you something.
Yeah, you're gone too far.
You can't tell me it's not.
I'm going to tell you that. That's exactly what I'm going to tell you.
It's not, because that's part of going back to generational wealth. That is what we're doing.
No, that's what. No. What we're doing now. That's what we're doing now as business owners. There's a difference. Jarrett can speak now from a worker point, from a VP point, and then as an owner now. He's an owner now. It's a completely different conversation. We're talking about employees, right? I've had jobs that I didn't make a lot of money, that I loved what I did. I did music. Me and Jarrett do music. I was in the music business for like 20 years. I love doing music. I love the creativity of it. I love living in the studio. I love going out of town. I love every aspect of it. Jarrett, are you arguing with me about this?
No.
Thank you. Don't box in my creativity. When you're making music, watch this. When you're making music and you're in the studio, you're not getting paid for your studio time, correct? You might actually be paying for it, correct?
Fact.
But how do you feel about what you're making?
Feel great about it. I wouldn't be investing in it.
Thank you. Yeah. That's the point that I just made. So that's when you say it's not about the money, because you're spending money and you haven't made any monetary value from it yet. But it's like an artist drawing a painting. It's like somebody, you understand what I'm saying?
The difference is that's my dream and this is my livelihood. Those are two big differences.
It's not a difference, because you can turn your dream into your livelihood. What a lot of Americans do is they take something that can support their livelihood and they fucking hate it. And they hate it. They hate it. And this is why you don't get, number one, the productivity that you're looking for out of a worker. A worker will not be super productive if they hate their job. I promise you that. I promise you that. You understand? When a person loves to come to work every day, you will get twice the amount of work done without even asking for it. That person will fucking ride and die for that company because they love what they do and they don't look at it as work. But when you're yeah, go ahead.
It's a combination of the work that's being done, but
Yeah.
also who you're working for.
Yeah,
right?
thank you. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes.
There's people I would put my hand in the fire for.
Yes.
That I worked with that weren't even my leaders, right? That were like leaders of an adjacent group that I worked with, that I would put my hand in the fire for this person. And they would do it for me. But there are other leaders I've had throughout my career. I may not necessarily feel that way, but the work was great, right? Sometimes there's difficult choices to make, whether it's whenever I made a job change, it was either about new skills, new work, or a person I really wanted to learn from and work for or work with, to your earlier point.
Yeah. So you know, that's what I'm saying. Like when you know, and that's where it gets back to my point where, like, again, I'm not ESPN, but I think that the brands have a responsibility to help show that the culture can elevate and change. You can't keep complaining about a situation and not do anything to help change the situation. You understand what I'm saying? You can't keep complaining about a situation and not do anything to help change the situation. You know what I mean? So if you're a startup, then nobody knows you. Your impact is minimal. It's minimal, right? So who are the people going to pay attention to? And Jarrett already said it before. It's the big brands, the Amazon, the ESPN, that even if you don't know what I do, you've heard my name. You've seen my logo, right? So when we talk about influence and influencing the masses, that's how you do it. You influence the masses. So if most people know about you and most people understand a portion of what you do, the message that you send out will be received by more people than not.
I agree, but there's also a lot of variables, bro. I think the way boxing this in, you know what I'm saying? It's just a lot. It's a lot of different variables when it comes to that, bro. Like
I'm just talking about just doing something. I'm just saying, all I'm saying is this. My message is very simple. They created the award for a reason. Amazon didn't create it. ESPN didn't create it. Whoever created the top business of whatever, they created it for a reason. Can we agree to that?
Yeah.
It's like being on whatever awards you've won. So PY, you've won some awards, right? What is the purpose of creating an award, letting somebody win the award, and then because whoever won the award might be a certain tier or level, saying if you promote the fact that you won this award, it's not good? That doesn't make any sense.
But business awards are different from personal awards. There's a lot of profit and there's a lot of under the table shit that happens. Think about the Con Lines Award. That's why I'm like, bro, there's so many nuances to what you're saying. I agree with some of what you're saying, but there's so many shit that we can't get into, bro, because we're gonna end up dragging.
No, it's not about. I'm just saying. Very simple. Do you believe that a company of this magnitude should not be promoting the positiveness that it has within its company? It's a very simple message.
No, it's more impactful when the people do it. That's it. It's more impactful when me as the employee do it. That's it. That's why I took the personal brand stance, bro. Because they can say, yo, who tweet. But guess what? When I go on my personal brand and be like, yo, Hootsuite allows me to wear the hat and the hoodie, and I could do this, and I can make mad money on the back end, and I could do that. Other people are seeing that, and it means more to them than Hootsuite saying people can make more money. You can wear your hat and a hoodie. That's why personal branding is so important. That's why employee advocacy. That's why I'm saying my price is my price. Because they don't
but
everybody
doesn't have a personal brand.
But
everybody
that's the point.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but that's why it's more important for every person to have it, because your voice is more valuable. You want to hear, if that's like me watching something on Netflix right now, and they saying it's the best movie ever. But if I go on Instagram right now and be like, yo, PY, that was the illest shit I saw. They cloned Tyrone. You know what I mean? Or whatever. Right? You're gonna be like, oh, Jarrett said it's trash. I don't care what they're talking about.
Got you.
That's what it is. That's all it is. So that's the whole point we were saying before. It's like, yo, if you do it, it looks like it's showboating. It looks like it's this. So they don't want that. They're going to create such a good environment where everybody's shrouding to the fucking mountaintops how dope it is. They don't care about awards. They're going to get the best talent anyway. And if you get there, guess what? You're going to make so much money on the back end, don't even matter.
See, then that's why I didn't talk about the money, because I feel like the money was going to come anyway. PY, if you do what you got to do and you excel at your job, then, right, we was taught to chase the money. And I think that's a terrible mindset to have. Do the work, be the best at what you do. If you're creating a product, create the best product possible. The money will come. I think we have to re-educate ourselves as a society, because we were only taught to chase the money, to chase the money, to chase the money. And when you're chasing the money, you lose a lot of your values, right? You'll shut up for a lot of things, right? You won't have the stance you might have for a lot of things because you're chasing the money. But if you create the value in yourself, create the product that speaks for itself, the money will eventually come.
You do, PY, do you ever heard of Walter Gear? Do you know Walt from the industry?
Yeah, Walt. Yeah.
So that's my guy. He was on season 1. He said something so real, and it resonated with me as a black man. He said, white men negotiate for power. Black men negotiate for money.
For money.
And I was just going to say, I don't know if it's about money or title, but that's what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But I still want to get I've got so many stories I wanted to get into.
Come on. Let's go.
These things are intrinsically tied together, though.
They
right?
are.
When you taste the title, you taste the money. When you taste the projects, and I just don't want to. What I agree with what you're saying. I just don't want to be naive in our conversation that money is an important factor in day-to-day life and does impact decisions. Right? You being able to put food on the table, being able to send your child to a safe school, being able to commute. Like the environment that you live in is stressful or not, like being able to come home to an oasis, like those things matter. Absolutely. And those things impact productivity as well.
Absolutely. And if my kid is in a good parochial school, I'm making this money, I got my house, I may have to shut the hell up today. I may have to. And that's just what it is. So as much as I want to be on the front lines and be like this, the unemployment line is super long, bro. And you're not trying to jeopardize your livelihood just because I stood up. Because you know what? I did that. I did it a lot. I don't have to be able to hat in a fucking hoodie trying to be in corporate. Look where it got my ass. I had to start my own. But I'll do that. Will everybody do that? I know people that be like, yeah, I'm hip hop. I'm just like you, Jarrett. Y'all would love to. But when they get in that motherfucking room and they get in that boardroom, it's yes, sir. Yes, sir, boss.
Yeah, I mean, well, this again, I agree 100% with both of you. Again, I would never ever say that I haven't made a decision that financially benefited me or my family. But like I said, my point was just very simple. It's just drawing the line and still having a stance where, like, I'm just not going to tolerate certain things based on money. You understand what I'm saying? Right. Mm-hmm. So, and then now moving forward. So, all right, we talked about the impact that this has on society. So you got into the marketing. Mm-hmm. You switch gears. We're doing law. We're doing constitutional law. We switch gears. We get into marketing. You're working for these nonprofits. You fall in love with marketing, right?
Yes.
Your first job wasn't with ESPN, right? Not in the marketing field.
It was with Walt Disney, right?
It was in a hybrid group. So it was the only hybrid group at the time. It was Disney and ESPN Media Network. So we worked across the entire TV portfolio for Disney. So at the time it was like, well, today it would be like Nat Geo, FX, Freeform, ABC. All the Disney channels, all the ESPN channels, SEC Network, ACC, the Ocho, right?
Yeah.
I love Nat Geo. I love Nat Geo.
Nat Geo's dope.
I love Nat Geo.
They have great documentaries.
I love Nat Geo. I'm sorry.
Visually, high production value.
Who is the cameraman? Some of the shots, I'd be like, God damn, how much it cost to get that shot? I love Nat Geo. So, okay, so how long was you with them before you transitioned over?
8 years.
Okay, so 8 years. And what was the position that you started at? What was the entry level position that you started at?
I was a coordinator of field sales. So I'd already moved up to like manager level in nonprofits, and I'd start all over.
That's what I was gonna say to you, because right. So look at what you did. Right? So look at what you did now. Look at what you did. Because I was gonna say that to you. So you were already at a manager level in your nonprofit, and you switched now and took a lower position, right? I'm gonna guesstimate and just say for lower money. Yes?
No.
Oh, it was more money?
Non-profit to for-profit. Not much more.
Oh, okay.
But a little bit more.
Okay.
I was eligible for overtime.
Okay, because managers normally get paid a decent amount in nonprofits. That's why I said less money. Okay. Okay, so you came in at this entry level, and then for the 8 years, what level were you at before you transitioned out of that company?
At Disney and ESPN, I got up to like senior manager, and then when I went to ESPN, I was associate director.
Okay.
Which are more or less the same title. They're just different structures within the different parts of the company.
Why the switch now? That's not talk money, talk money, but why the switch?
I'll tell you, it was a lateral shift. So that was another time in my career. So going from nonprofit to for-profit was like, whoop, and then I went up, and then going from B2B marketing to B2C marketing, I had to make a choice, right? I wanted to move into consumer marketing. There was a position. I was hoping it would be a director role. but they made it associate director. And I had to make it, I went through the interview process and they wanted me, and that was a challenge. And I was like, if I want to grow from a title perspective, not for the sake of the title, but as we all know in the job world, right? They want to see growth in title. With title also comes bigger bonuses, right? Percentages that you're allocated to. There's other things that come with that. An office, would be nice. I feel like I have earned that at this point.
A door.
Things that
I could
have lived without the office, but like I wanted, put some respect on my name. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean,
a door. I want a door with a plaque with my name on it.
A door. So, it was difficult because I had to decide, was I willing to make this lateral shift for the sake of learning a whole new area? And I was going to be given the chance to work on 30 for 30 documentary films at one of the biggest brands, work on brand marketing for ESPN. Like,
fire.
I did it.
What is the interview process like?
It depends. So coming into the organization, yes.
When you came in and when you shifted over.
Yes, when I came in, I think
I have to send a resume.
5 rounds of interviews. Oh yes, a resume. I had like 5 interviews, not only with the hiring manager, but every one of the people on the sales team.
Yeah.
I had to do a presentation. They gave me like an assignment, and I had to pick like one of 2. And I remember it was Labor Day weekend. And it was like, they gave me the assignment like Friday afternoon, and I had to be able to pitch like Tuesday morning. So it was basically like, there goes your weekend. But you can make a choice, right? Like we were saying before. Are you going to do it? Yeah. How bad do you want it? So I was like at the barbecue, like talking to people about initially like concepts that I was thinking about. And we were like crowdsourcing ideas. Like people were poking holes in my presentation. I was going to my husband at the time was my boyfriend to his office to like practice in a conference room and like printing out my presentation at his office. I couldn't do it at my office. I didn't have a printer at home. So, and then I ended up getting the job. So that was my first go about in it. And I would say I did have people help me even in the interview round. I met with one woman who seemed to really like me. And we were talking through the interview and everything was going fine. And in a moment at the end of the interview, she paused and she said, I think your answers were all great, but what I didn't hear you say was X, Y, and Z. So some like nuance in like what I was saying. And she's like, and when you go into the next room, I'm gonna need to make sure that you say those things in the next room. And at first, and I'm like, is this a trap?
Right. Dope.
Because I'm still young, right? I'm still in my early 20s at the time. And I'm like, is this a trap? Like, is she supposed to say this to me? Like,
is she looking out? Is she not looking out?
She looked out. And and literally that is just one small example of all of it. Like I stand here today on the shoulders of all of those people who did those things along the way. So going back to obligation, right? I'm like doing that for other people, pulling them aside or giving them the edge. Like people who want it are going to take that and run.
Right.
So then my second interview process, I had already gone through a few interviews because I changed roles a few times at that point within the company, or I had new roles based on restructures because that happens all the time in media.
Absolutely.
So this last one is a little tricky because you're applying internally, and luckily I had an amazing boss at the time who was clear. I could be honest with her and say, I love what I'm doing now, but I am curious about learning more about consumer marketing. I had spent more time like shadowing that team and like joining their monthly meetings. So I would understand some of the work they were doing, the campaigns they were working on. And there was no job open at the time. I was just going like in my spare time, like spending this extra time with this team because I'm like, I think I want to do this, but I don't know how to get there.
Right.
And in one of the meetings, they were saying goodbye to a guy who accepted a job at a different company. And it didn't even click to me in that moment. They're like, oh, there's a job opening. Because I was still like, oh, this is fun, like extracurricular. And then all of a sudden I was having lunch with a friend of mine and I was saying like, man, I really want to get into consumer marketing, but like, I don't really know how to get into this space because I really don't have the degree. I don't really have the experience. Like everything else I've done has been in this distribution area. Yeah. And she's like, oh, well, so-and-so just left. And I'm like, oh shit, I was in that meeting. I didn't even think about it.
Wow.
And then I was like, So I set up time with the hiring manager and I said, look, I'm thinking about applying. This is the benefit to applying internally. You get to do all these things.
Yeah.
But I want to get a sense from you. Are you looking to hire someone that was just like the person who left? The guy who just left was like Johnny Football, right? He could tell you stats about everything. I am not Jane Football, right? I am like storyteller. I'm creative. I do love sports, but I can't tell you who's on the starting lineup for the Mets. Like You know what I mean?
Yes,
and I'm a Mets
facts.
fan. I'm not that diehard sports fan. I am a like story seeking, like player specific, like moments kind of a sports fan. And I was like, so if you're looking to replace him, then like, I'm not your girl. But if you're interested in taking a chance and approaching this from a different perspective, like, I think I could do a really good job here.
I'm glad.
And he was like, all right.
I'm glad you said that, because I really wanted to know at this point in your career, where is Patricia's confidence level, right?
Oh, zero.
Yeah. No, wait, how?
I don't know.
You were a manager. You were doing this. How could your confidence be zero?
This was a new space.
Right.
So my goal was like, how do I get you to believe in me that my track record is such that I have always entered a space where I did not know what was happening, but I have always figured it out, and I have always left my fingerprints on it before I left. So that has always been my mark, whether I was in nonprofits, whether I had to figure it out, you know, at every single role. When I came into sales and media, when I moved into like a small, you know, client services agency within the sales org, when I moved into partnership marketing, everything I had to figure it out. But like I said earlier, with the environment and the people that I was with, there was always someone there coaching me, showing me, explaining me. And I made mistakes, don't get me wrong, but there was someone there. And then there were opportunities given to me to do it, you know, with a safety net, but like to actually do, not just watch, right? But I also took advantage of the times where I spent my extra time learning, asking questions, meeting with people, networking, and even studying. So I know we didn't finish our MBAs, but I have done certificates with like section on brand strategy. I did finish the one earlier this year with Columbia Business School, executive education on digital marketing, because also marketing is constantly changing. I'm actually looking to do a mini MBA in the fall, just to keep rounding out, just to keep growing and changing with everything that's happening with AI. There's always something to learn. So
is that a requirement for your job? Because I know a lot of jobs require that. Okay. Because, you know, they have what I think it's called like additional education credits or some ECC credits or something like that, right? Where your job will say, we'll give you the job, but we require you to get a certain amount of continued education or certifications within, you know, a certain time frame. So you said they're not even asking for that.
Not required.
Wow.
But they do have an educational reimbursement program.
Nice.
Where I have not paid for any of these programs. Excuse me. All you have to do is apply, explain how this is going to help you grow in the role that you're currently in.
Right.
Your VP has to approve it. And then you talk about, you know, ideally the stuff is like after hours or not taking up too much of your work time for X amount of weeks. And then you talk about what you learned afterwards, and then you kind of move forward. So I've done that at least 3 times within my time at ESPN.
Wow. I think we might have to Google ESPN.
Yeah, there's a really great
More Than the Title might be moving to ESPN.
Sponsored by.
You know,
I'm hearing too many benefits over. I'm hearing about too many benefits right now. Jarrett, how would you feel about the ESPN ban on More Than the Title?
If the price is right, I'm Bob Barker. You kidding me? Don't ever ask me a question like that. If the motherfucking price right, I'm Bob Barker. Let's do it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But
after all that talk about having morals and ethics, and
I asked him. Wait, Patricia, did you see what I did? Did you see what I did? I set his ass up, right? I said, Jarrett, how do you feel about it?
Man, I'm going for the bag. They let me be me. I'm going for the bag. Damn. Right now, they made their cold, B, and you know what? I don't know them people that standing out there be like, yo, get Jarrett a bag. There ain't too many of them about that. But people like, yo, in your career, you've been a multiple dope projects, right? And you said they gave you a lot of free range to do what you needed to do, and it was like a safety net. What is one of those projects that you was like, holy shit, I'm on this, and what was the most difficult situation you had to overcome with that? It was like, holy shit, nobody's here. Nobody's doing this. I got to produce this by then. Nobody actually really showed me how to do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, is there any situation like that?
There is not a situation where it's really hard for me to think about, because even in all the times I was managing clients, like I was working with, I had colleagues that let me shadow them when working on Comcast, which is like the biggest television distributor in the country. And she was so gracious because she knew I was trying to learn that business and there weren't enough accounts to like spread around. So she was like, I could use the help. She's like, just come work with me. And then at some point she just let me like run the account, which was amazing. But God, that's so hard. The only thing I can think of right now is one of the more recent things is that we didn't have this like ongoing newsletter communication with our fans, basically curating what to watch when it came to original content and film. A lot of people, when you think about ESPN, you think about live sports. And so I worked with my team to come up with a newsletter, and we had to brand it. We had to develop it. We had to get product to like be willing to produce a row of content within our products that we could drive people to from our email marketing. And it was harder than I thought, right? Because it sounds like easy to do, right? It's a lot of table stakes for other companies like a Netflix or a Hulu, but technically it was going to involve a lot of other people deciding to do extra work, right? Something that I wanted to make. So that was like the hard part. And so, and to do it right, where we would have metrics and we would have like information to decide, like, are we doing the right thing or do we need to adjust? And so initially, you know, poor product team has like a never ending to-do list. They were like, this is not a priority for us right now, but like maybe come back to us. And so we had to figure out, how do we get around not having like a dedicated destination to send people to in the email? And so it meant more work for us initially. We had to like link everything individually that was in our email. So if we had like 5 shows we were going to be promoting, instead of pushing to one place, we'd have to like link everything separately. Just means more opportunity for error, all these other things. What I wanted to see was like, if we had an existing row on the platform, how many people discovered it organically and how many people came to it because of our email push. And that was going to be the interesting part for me, but I couldn't do that yet. So I was like, it's cool. We're still going to do it anyway. Right. So we did it in November, we did it in December. And December was really dope because we had a holiday marathon and we did this holiday email theme. And when we got the stats back about how it performed, we had learned that the open rate was higher than the number of people we sent it to. And I was like,
see,
how's that
can't be right.
Right.
And I was like, something's wrong with the numbers. And they're like, no. This means either people went back to the email and opened it again because they wanted to see something else. Right. And or they forwarded it to someone because they were like, oh, this is dope. Come look and see like what ESPN has. And I was like, okay, we're on to something. This was like month 2. So now we had like some data, we had some momentum. You go back to product, you go back to people like buying media on CTV, search and everything else. And we're like, okay, look, we have something here. People want this, but we're not doing this the most efficient way. We're not doing this the best way. And sometimes we're losing clicks. So we're like, okay, make the newsletter shorter. Let's try a GIF, rotational GIF image at the top. Let's try these other subject lines. Let's test the buttons, right? Do some A/B testing for like watch now versus stream now. Yeah. And I didn't get to see the end of the story because, spoiler alert, I'm no longer with ESPN as of this month because I was part of the Disney layoff.
I'm sorry to hear
that. But thank you. That's okay.
It's not okay. No. It's not okay.
It's okay because I feel like I'm going to be okay. That's why it's okay.
You will be.
No, I feel like you will be too, but I just feel like, again, it's just not okay. I can't agree to somebody losing their job.
No facts.
It's not okay.
I get it.
You know.
Revenue.
Yeah.
My point was that the exciting part was going to be to see like how the CTV ads were going to do because the open rate was high, but we didn't see the connection in the streaming. And I was like, why aren't we getting people to watch? Like, I don't get it. They're opening it. And someone was like, you know what? Think about when you get an email. Are you going to watch like this 10-hour documentary of The Last Dance on your phone? No, you're going to go to your television and watch it there. And I was like, you know what? You make an excellent point there. So the last step, which hopefully is happening now while I'm not there, was to get some CTV ads and get some connection there so we could see the story, like this whole through line to like what's happening from activation and see if we're getting the increased numbers from that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Is she breaking up to you, Jarrett? I feel like
just slightly. Just went down a little bit.
Okay.
You good now?
Perfect.
Okay. Perfect. So that was just really interesting. You had all these different people who had to come together. We had to do like a little bit of a proof of concept initially to get buy-in. And we were like, all right, cool, we'll do it. We get it. Everyone's got mad shit to do. This is like an extra thing to do. But like once you get the momentum and people are excited and people are seeing this as a new way to reach fans, and like then how do you keep refining it each month and keep refining and keep refining? Like that to me is just like
I love the testing. I love the art and science of that. As you're saying that, I'm thinking about you guys have a huge database of emails. How do you segment who to send it to and who not to?
Yes. So a lot of filters, but, and we would change it every month. So if November was Native American History Month, and depending on the title, so there were some films that we had for lacrosse because it's roots, and part of the film talks about the roots in Native American history. We would pull those films up and we would see like people who watch things like this or people interested in lacrosse and kind of like put those segments in. And then if it was holiday marathon, there's kind of like a mix of content. I think we just did what we call story seekers. So people who are looking for original content stories. If February is, Black History Always, we look through the catalog. Going back to being mindful, are our stories all about Black pain or are they also about Black joy? Do we have enough of a mix? Do we have any place for Black pain in this month, or is this just a month of celebration? How do we position the myriad of stories that could come out from here? So we look at that really closely from a content perspective with the programming team, and then think about how we position the content going out.
Yeah, that's fine.
I got a crazy question that I don't know if somebody's ever asked you, but I'm just curious, right? I'm curious because I think this would be a dope thing to do, but maybe they do it, maybe they don't. When you are involved in these big projects, right? The Last Dance and things of that nature. Yeah, you're getting paid from a salary point, but do these guys give you options to like buy into the project? Like, hey, if you want to buy a certain amount of shares in the project or something like that, like when the project comes out, so that you can get residuals from it? Because I know they do it for like the actors and the producers of it, but do they offer that to the production team as well? I mean, I'm just curious.
I don't know about I'm on the marketing production team. So the actual production team of the film, I don't think so. Because I think we're not structured like that from an employee perspective, but I know initially when I started working there, I don't know if they have it now, but there was an employee stock purchase program. And I don't want to speak now if I'm misspeaking on it. I don't know if it still exists today, but there was one for Disney. And I kicked myself because I did not invest, and the stock was like $48 at the time. Now it's like well over $100. So if your company offers it and it's a large company that's going to be around for a while, like Disney, kids, buy some stock.
So again, that's why I asked, right? Because again, we talk about generational wealth, and we also talk about education. If you're not educated in stocks, you can't kick yourself. Stocks in itself is 1,500 degrees, and you still won't understand it. You know what I mean? So, but I just think about things like that because it's a way for you to monetize off of your project and monetize off of the company that you've worked with, even if you're still not at the company. So you worked at Disney. Let's say you bought 200, 300 stocks. Even if you're not at Disney anymore, you still can get monetary value from the stocks rising and going up from when you bought it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know Amazon does that with their employees.
Yeah, Amazon definitely does.
Was it last year?
They
split the stock?
Yeah. See, but I'm also thinking too, what was one of the, like, outside of financial and the benefits and stuff, what was one of the biggest perks of working for Disney/ESPN? Did you see Bob Igor? Did you see an athlete that you always loved? Like, what was one moment that you was like, man, I can't believe I'm here?
There were a lot of moments. When I worked in the client services group, I was in charge of ticketing and VIP events. Dream job. Dream job. I was in my early 20s. I was flying across the country. I went to Super Bowl 50. I went to US Open every year. I went to All-Star. I'm trying to think about it.
And you left that? You was going to the Super Bowl for free? You know about Super Bowl tickets?
Who left? They asked me to leave. Who left?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. I'm just saying. Okay. Because I'm like, you're going to Super Bowl for free? Shit, I'm in.
Double back now. You double back.
And the US Open? Right.
Yes, US Open, ESPYs. I have had the benefit of meeting some very cool athletes or presenting to them on Zooms in this era. Which is dope. And sometimes they say never meet your heroes, but I'll say Derek Jeter and Colin Kaepernick are exactly the heroes that they present themselves to be.
Nice.
Oh, that's so dope.
Yeah. Did you ask for an autograph?
No.
Did you get a picture?
No.
You didn't commemorate the moment? Oh, come on, Patricia.
The picture's supposed to be right under the captain's photo,
right? You gotta commemorate
as
the
an
moment.
Employee, you're not allowed to ask for autographs or pictures. That's
really
not allowed. Yes. And then number two, they're getting bombarded. right? Like
I understand.
When I'm working with them, it's more of like a working relationship. It's not a fan. I mean, inside I'm dying, but like, but like externally, like this is business, right? We're not here to take pictures, but no.
Right. No, that's definitely understandable. Let me ask you this. So you've had a journey that is not orthodox, right? Because you've changed around, you've done so many different things, right? Now we talk about the education to people that are not at Patricia's level at this moment, right? And I know that you've given them advice and things of that nature, but can you recommend, are there any type of programs out there or anything that you could recommend to somebody that's looking to get into the field that you're in that, it would benefit them to get that type of program or get that type of education?
In marketing in general?
Yeah, like say somebody wants to do what you're doing right now, so I know you gave general advice, but like, is there a specific program that they could get into, or like a grant program or a scholarship program they could apply for, apprenticeship program? Does ESPN do apprenticeships? Like, is there some type of program that somebody could apply for if they wanted to kind of, start on the path that you're on?
Yeah, so ESPN does have internships. I should say Disney has internships.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Across all sorts of divisions within the company and brands. So that's always available. And they do hire interns with the intention of making them full-time employees.
Nice.
Think of the internship. My biggest piece of advice with any internship is think of it as a long audition, like a long interview. You literally showing up every day, representing yourself, and then imagining what it'd be like to work with you, right? Like, are you there first thing in the morning? Are you asking questions? Are you raising your hand to work on stuff? Like, that is your interview. It's a 3-month interview process. If you mess that up, that's on you.
Right.
Like,
okay.
And then in terms of programs, I would say, my philosophy has always been like, stay curious. I've read Dr. Marcus Collins' book most recently, For the Culture, which is great. Really great perspective on moving from marketing just to demographics and really thinking about community and what moves people, because people are what moves people. So staying connected to those things. Exploring programs like Section are really great by Professor Galloway. Scott Galloway has a podcast. He's, teaches at NYU. Scott. He offers, and I took one of his earlier courses, earlier sprints on brand strategy in 2020, that are really designed for a working professional, right? It's like just the right amount of work. It's the right mix of like live, through Zoom, and also like off live coursework. You have a TA, you have classmates, like, you automatically build your network with like people, who are working in CPG or anything else. And it just gives you a different framework and different lens to think about your work. Like, I don't work in consumer packaged goods, but working through a problem with someone who does, even virtually, just makes your brain grow in a different way and gives you different perspective when you show up to work the next day. It makes you think about it in a different way.
Absolutely.
So I really like Section. My course at Columbia Business School was amazing. It's their executive education program. What I loved about it was that the digital marketing course had simulation software. So you would actually go into a software similar to what they have at like a Hootsuite or a HubSpot, and like actually go through the buying process for social media and digital. So if you've never done it before, you literally log in as if, you get a memo from your director and you have this budget and you have to hit these KPIs and this is the product.
That's dope.
It's so dope.
That's dope.
So you could really speak to saying like, you didn't just learn this theoretically, but you've actually like done this access. I think the software is called StuKent, like student with a K. And signing up for the course gives you access to like that software. And so that one I really loved too.
That's fire.
That's
fire.
Fire. So, I've got actually, I know we're coming up on time too, and I just want to ask you, my last question. What is the mountaintop? What are some things that you haven't accomplished that you're looking to accomplish in your career moving forward?
I'm at this turning point, right? I'm at a pivot point here. I've been laid off. I'm looking at opportunities, right? I'm seeing what's happening in media and Hollywood, the video viewing habits changing, and it's an inflection point for me. I'm starting to think about, do I go into technology and like I need to upskill to kind of get into technology. I started a SQL course. Coding is not necessarily my thing, but like, why not? I'm figuring it out. And, do I stay in marketing? Do I stay in media? And there's been really interesting opportunities to work at like maybe work for a museum thinking about performance marketing there, and like, how do you build community around an institution, right? And so like working in arts, I thought about working at, some sort of like purpose-driven nonprofit again, kind of going back to where I started. How do I do that? How do I use my marketing acumen and like help push those businesses forward? Do I go back to working for like Latino communities, which I did in my earlier career? So I feel like because I've had this range, I have these like different levels that I can push. In an optimal world, I would find a place where it could be like brand, purpose, and like dope shit, like mixed together and like make it a job. I would do that.
As you're saying that, I'm gonna keep it all the way real with you, because I'm a fan of you now. I'm gonna keep it all the way real with you. I can see you in a lot of different roles. One, I can see you camera facing. I think more Latinas, more Black women of color. I think people need to see your story, hear your story. I think you need to help, or just have other stories of other women that are going through similar things, and how do you, and build that community. But I can also see you to start a B2B company. Your storytelling aspect is ridiculous, right? So I can see you at a place, a startup or a tech company with a very small budget, and be able to make like your email campaign that you just did at ESPN. That's mastery, right? So not having that much data, being able to start something from the ground up. Like I see you as somebody who's driven, who can make that shit happen and drive revenue for somebody. And you could also get back into sales, because you can also get that commission on the back end. So there's so much stuff you can do. And I'm just put it out there. Like anybody watching,
I'll take the money blessings.
You know what I'm saying? So anybody listen.
Nobody's ever gonna knock the
money.
You did. You spent about 20 minutes in this podcast knocking the money.
Listen, I don't knock. Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't knock the money, but be clear. And Jarrett will tell you right now, and anybody that knows me personally knows what I say. I don't bullshit. I call it what it is. I don't treat money the same way other people treat money. Very simple. I treat money as a trading tool to get what you want, but I don't value it the way other people value it, and I don't let it change the person that I am. Plain and simple. You understand? You want to give me a certain amount of money to represent what you feel like my value versus what I'm giving you time-wise, because you pay your time for money, right? Versus my time, that's one thing, but it has to come with a certain set of stipulations. And if you're not with that, then there's absolutely nothing to talk about. And guess what? If I have to downgrade my lifestyle, then I will. I've done it before. I've been to rock bottom, and a lot of people haven't been to rock bottom. So let's state that.
Not
a lot
afraid
of people
to go back to that.
Right. A lot of people have had hard times, but they've never been to real rock bottom, right? Homeless, I don't mind. I was homeless, and I can say that. You understand? Washing up in bathrooms, and I can say that. So a lot of people have never been to rock bottom, where we was eating in soup kitchens and we didn't know where our next meal was coming from. And I have no problem putting that out there, because it's the real. So like I said, I don't knock the money, but it's about letting the money change you as a person, right? Letting the money control you into being something that you should not be, where you end up moving away from the same people that you're interacting with. So you get rich, you act a certain sort of way, and you think because you have money now, that separates you from the day-to-day life. So PY, guess what? You grew up in a different culture, right? And guess what? You went to Catholic schools, and you went to this and you went to that, and you still interact every single day with people that didn't live your lifestyle. You see that? Going to the store, doing anything as simple, you can run into somebody that didn't live your lifestyle, that doesn't have your mindset, that doesn't have nothing. And guess what? You are now privy to however they're feeling in the moment. If they feel like acting crazy, you're right there next to them. Do you understand how life ends up bringing you full circle? So that's what I'm saying. I'm not knocking the money. I'm saying people should stop valuing the money over personal values as being a human being. You understand what I'm saying?
Quote, yes. Yeah. And if I can quote, you might have to get your button ready for this one.
Okay, hold on. Get the buttons ready, Jay.
It's not my quote. It's not my quote.
Yeah.
Remember I said we meet our heroes, and Colin Kaepernick has said, not all money is good money.
Facts.
Message.
You see, that's all I'm saying, right? So I got one last question for you, right? And I think this is very important to address. Now that you've been in big industry company, you've worked for a Fortune 500 company, you've worked for a nonprofit company. Here's the battle that most people go through, and I want to know your perspective on it. Do I venture out feeling like I'm talented and I want to work for you know, maybe a Fortune 500 company or a private sector company, or do I play it safe because the economy is what it is and get a state or a city job just to feel like I'm comfortable enough to feel like I have job security? What advice would you give somebody going, because now let's talk that, right?
Yeah.
Private sector versus big money, or state or city sector versus military, or, you know, some type of state funded long-term money. What advice would you give somebody battling that?
I don't have any on my husband's side of the family. There's a lot of military,
Right.
Career military. My mom is the one who worked for the city.
Right.
So I see the benefit. My father-in-law worked for the state. He worked for corrections. He was in the Navy. So, I mean, he's got 2 pensions.
Right.
Pension is nice.
Absolutely.
Pension is really nice. I know 401k is great, but a pension's really nice. So I see the benefits there. I would say a lot of what between, you know, nonprofit, for-profit, private, how do I want to say this? The grass isn't greener. It's just different grass, right? Every place is going to have its issues. Every place is going to have its politics. Every place is going to have its thing. But if it's your thing, do it. I mean, they're not paying bad in the city. I mean, I've seen, you know, people make some really good money there. I mean, if you want to make stupid money, you probably got to go to like Amazon and Google and things like that. But like, how much do you really need? Didn't Cardi B say a few weeks ago, like having everything is like boring?
Yeah. That's
I mean, I'm not getting to Cardi B's level anytime soon, but she said it and I was like, she's crazy. And then I was like, you know what? I think I understand what she's saying. Like, you literally can have anything you want at any point in life, and you've been working so hard to get here. Now she's there and she's like, it's kind of boring. So, you know, enjoy what you're doing. If you want to work, you know, for sanitation, that's a good job. Go work sanitation. If you want to work in a union, I know the doormen have a union like in the city. That's a great job too. I think they have great benefits.
Yeah.
You got to do what's right for you.
That's it. That's it. I know. I'm trying. I want a door. I want a door, man. Not be the door, man.
You know,
we gonna get.
Well, you know, again, I just only asked that question because you said that you got laid off, and this is a real fear, right? You have experience, right? You can say I have accolades A through Z, right? And still, like Jarrett told you earlier, he was the top seller. I am the top, not the second. I am the #1 person bringing money in this building, and I still got laid off. This is a very real fear of people entering this, not only this industry, but the private sector, saying, where is the job security? Do I take the big payout, but every day I'm so fearful that this could be my last day, or should I take a lower payout, but take what I believe to be the stability of working you know?
That's where I go back to say, like, you have to stay ready. Yeah. Right. All of the extra work I did throughout my career wasn't just doing my job. It was taking extra classes, making the time to network, going to conferences. Like, that is the extra work that you have to do no matter where you are, because at any point somebody can say, thank you very much for your service. Have a blessed day.
That's it.
Right.
But if you were not getting ready the whole time, then you're in for a rude awakening. Right. I cannot tell you how surprised I've been, pleasantly surprised. Obviously, my network has been very helpful to me. I think everyone would assume that. But the people that were like acquaintances and like friends of friends who have been willing to like refer me, talk to a hiring manager on my behalf, just to get like an interview with a recruiter or get a call back, has been unbelievable. But all of that would not have been possible if I have not spent the last decade genuinely making connections with people, making time to grow people. And these are people sometimes that I had like mentored previously that are now in their careers. And now I'm like, hey, I don't have a job right now. Like, do you know anyone's here? And it wasn't with that intention, right? That was not my intention, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, to like come back to this person, but
treating people right and being a good person.
Say it again, Jarrett. Say it again, Jarrett. Say it again.
Full circle.
Treating a person like a human being, right? Yeah. And that's it, because you don't burn the bridge. Even if we disagree, you respect my work ethic and you know what I bring to the table, and that's it.
That's it. I would say that's my entire strategy, sis.
Right.
I'm gonna be real with you. Like, my whole thing was, I remember back in the day, and you remember, P.Y., like when they used to ask you for sales jobs, what's your black book? Remember those days, like who can you call right now to get a deal?
Right.
Who can you do this for? And I'm like, all right, I always to have that. I never had a black book. If I called you, I was lit with you. So how can I scale me? And that's what it really is at this point. You have to create the value for yourself. You have to be genuinely interested. I don't care if one person watches this shit. I'm genuinely interested in you, PY. Now we're cool. Now, you know what I'm saying? Now we're going to go, you know what I'm saying? And that's what really matters. And hoarding those relationships. So people listening, y'all might think this, we doing this I'm doing it strictly for relationships and to give back. Like, I want the relationships. The relationships can be anything. Like, I'm talking, I got billionaires in my phone now. I'm still in the Bronx.
Wait. That actually answer.
Wait.
Let's put that out there. Not just in his phone. Like, if he texts them,
wait.
right? Yeah. We'll answer and be like, "Hey, Jarrett, what's up?" Right, from the Bronx. Like, no, this is
from the Bronx.
No,
Indian style.
It has to be said. This is what I'm talking about because it shows you that it is possible to make this transition. Right, it is possible for a person in the Bronx or wherever you from to be at the level that you are and still make these personal connections and people value who you are. It's possible.
You have to be who you are for them to value who you are.
So
don't try to be somebody that they want you to be.
Right.
Be who you are. Like, it's been a lot of times where I was thinking when I first started talking to people, damn, but they still like me. I'm kind of hood. This, that. I know my marketing stuff. We can talk business all day, but would they like this? I had something last week. I walked into a big company, Spotify. Right. And my friend is working there. He's bringing me into the company. I'm sitting there like this with my More Than a Title shirt on, got my hat on. And I made some waves in there. I'm talking now. The CRO is one of my good friends now.
Right.
He was like, man, you know what? Because you came in and you was just you, man. And you I mean, I ain't give a fuck if anybody likes you. Guess because I'm a boss. So we got our own brother. I don't really need you. I'm here to show you love.
See?
That we gave up. I'm here to just have a drink with you guys. Let's go get a blue moon. Like, who are you? What do you do? And I literally had a pod at the bar. Sitting there like, yo, who are you? Blah, blah, blah. And before the end, we sitting there almost in tears like, damn, yo, this is real. You know what I'm saying?
Listen.
Don't bring up the MJ picture again.
What's the saying that I know we've all heard of? At this point, it's not even what you know, it's who you know. Who do you know?
And if you don't know nobody.
Oh no. I didn't do it. No, I did not do it.
If you don't know nobody.
I didn't do it. I promise you, PY, it wasn't me.
You shouldn't have loaded it.
You're both responsible.
PY, the value and what you've built, your work ethic is phenomenal. And I just want to congratulate you on that.
Thank you.
And I wanna promote that, right? We are not here telling you guys that this shit is easy. What we're trying to show you is at every single level, at any company that you work for, you must put the work in. You got to put the work in, right? And the more you work and the better you work and the better that you show that you're willing to be a team player, even if the company doesn't has to downsize you, the connections that you build around you, the people that realize what kind of person you are, they will help. That's your network now, because your network equals your net worth. Your network equals your net worth. And that's what's going to help you survive. I'm just saying, that's what's going to help you survive in this world, right? Jarrett makes a lot of his connections not based off of a dollar amount, but by who likes him as a person.
That's it.
Who likes him as a person and say, Jarrett, I like you, my guy. How can I help you? And it's a completely different conversation than a cold call. It's a completely different conversation than an email or, an instant message when you friend somebody and you get the phone. I just friended you and I got a 3-page fucking message from you already. There's no way you type that fast. That should happen to me twice. Wait, I'm saying that should happen to me twice on LinkedIn. I friended you and got a 3-page message. And I'm like, there's no way you type that shit that fast.
Let me unsend my message real
quick.
Yeah. I'm trying to tell you.
I definitely appreciate you coming on the show, PY. You like Jarrett says, you have a great story, and I truly believe that you need to get your story out there because there are so many people that are not nowhere near your level that need to hear what you went through, not only the good but the bad, right? Because you show that you have been able to have adversity and get knocked down and get back up and still keep moving. And there's people that need that energy because they're down right now. They are down right now. And they need to see somebody that looks like them, that sounds like them, so that they can do what? They can relate to you. And help give them the motivation to move forward. So I applaud you for that, and I definitely appreciate you.